is breathing, expanding and contracting. Everything that was will be, and everything that will be already happened before. Time is breathing. As it expands, stretching us with it, everything that was once within pours out, filling up the space. Gadgets, tchotchkes, inventions, all materialize, taking on physical shapes, while we begin to feel empty. Indigenous stories and knowledge about mushrooms have not been lost. They are just now being created, as you and I begin to contract back in within the cycles of time. Time is breathing, expanding, contracting. This knowledge that now appears to be outside of us, so well structured and technical, stored on flash drives and in books and libraries, will also contract back in, soon becoming inner knowing, and then one day, second nature to you and me. Hello, my beautiful friends. We're back in the forest, and today we are exploring Point Reyes National Seashore. Let's see what kind of mushrooms grow here. I'm super excited. I just got here. It's about 2 p.m. Well, maybe 1:30. So we have just a couple of hours, but let's get in there. We're in the most beautiful forest. Look. Now and out for a moment. It's right next to me. Hi. They're super close. Here's the trail. And here they are. Hi, beautiful. This sure is a wood blewit, scientific name Collybia nuda, formerly known as Clitocybe nuda or Lepista nuda, a decomposer mushroom that is both beautiful and edible, although it is important to get acquainted with his toxic lookalikes. On the Pacific coast of western United States, they can be Inocybe ionocephala, Inocybe pallidicrema, and several of the Cortinarius species. Personally, if I'm dealing with a mushroom I haven't worked with yet, I will not collect him for food even if I'm 100% certain with his identification and edibility status. Not until I meet all his toxic lookalikes, to see how closely they resemble each other and where I can potentially make a mistake. And when this puzzle piece is in place and I can confidently tell the difference between the edible mushroom and his toxic lookalike, only then will I be ready to take the final step of cooking and tasting the mushroom. Knowing the lookalikes is very important. This piece of info can and will keep you away from unpleasant mushroom experiences. Wood blewit's caps can range in color from very light lilac to very rich purple to super bright violet when wet, changing to pinkish tan and brownish as the mushroom loses water and matures. In very dry weather conditions, some specimens may appear silvery gray, and surprisingly, extreme wet weather conditions may produce a similar outcome. As the mushroom gets excessively saturated with water, it also fades. The perfect amount of moisture content results in a uniformly brightly colored cap. This property of the cap changing its color based on the amount of moisture is called hygrophanous and is a great identification feature for this species. Notice, if you see a patch of Collybia nuda consisting of several fruiting bodies of different sizes or ages, Regardless of the size, all mushrooms within the patch will either be pale or bright together, or they will all have a similar color pattern of dry and wet zones on the cap, pointing to the presence of an influencing factor that affects their coloration aside from their age. But while the cap undergoes hygrophonous change rapidly as the mushroom gains and loses moisture, the gills and the stipe retain purple hues more consistently. The gills of Collybia nuda are attached to the stipe and are sometimes slightly notched, sinuate, and are closely spaced together. Their pale pink spore print is a great distinguishing characteristic that sets them apart from potentially toxic lookalikes, especially the Cortinarius species, which have rusty brown spore prints, and Inocybe ionocephala and Inocybe pallidicrema, which have dull brown spore prints. So taking a spore print is a crucial step for proper identification of Collybia nuda, especially for beginners. Whenever fully unearthing a wood blewit, you will often see that there is something attached to the outermost base of the stipe, all sorts of debris, leaf pieces, needles mixed with rhizomorphs and mycelium. Well, this clingy lump is another key physical characteristic that may help you distinguish these species from others. So make sure to unearth the entire body when first learning to identify these guys.
I see some interesting mushrooms right there in the forest, right under those trees. Look how beautiful. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's awesome. Look at these guys. Whoa. They're so beautiful. Oh my God.
Tall Psathyrella, Psathyrella longipes, known as Hypholoma longipes in the past. Apparently, these mushrooms are fairly common in the southern part of California, but at this moment of our first encounter, they appeared highly magical, rare, supernatural, and very unique. There is something eerie and mysterious about all mushrooms with conical and cylindrical shaped heads, like that of witch's hat mushroom, Hygrossa biconica, or the shaggy mane, Caprinus comatus, especially when you are in the dark forest. And this family was just like that, with their shape-shifting, cute little heads, which, by the way, are also hygrophonous. It felt like they were somehow glowing against the backdrop of the dark forest floor, and as I got closer, I realized that what appeared as glowing were their white appendiculate cap margins and white stipes embellished with bright chevrons. Appendiculate cap margin is a margin that bears small projecting parts or appendages, usually remnants of the mushroom's partial veil. In Psathyrella species, these appendages are evanescent, which means they will soon disappear, leaving behind a bold, striate margin. Do you remember any other species from my past videos which are evanescent? How about the hare's foot ink cap, Caprinopsis lagopus? Well, guess what? Both genus Psathyrella and Caprinopsis are from the same family, Psathyrellaceae. Species in the genus Psathyrella get their name from a Greek word meaning friable or crumbly and are commonly known as brittle stems due to their fragile nature, not to be confused with brittle gills, which are referring to Russulus. The word longipes, which names specific species, comes from a combination of two words, longus, which means far or long, and pes, which means foot. So there we have it, a long-footed brittle stem. A fun fact about this fascinating genera is that one of its members, Psathyrella aquatica, lives entirely submerged underwater. Yep, a gilled mushroom that fruits and reproduces inside a river, like a fish, using tiny air bubbles instead of droplets of rain to spread its spores. But back to the species at hand, Psathyrella longipes. As the mushroom matures, the head changes in shape from almost cylindrical to conical or broadly bell-shaped, while the gills turn in color from whitish to blackish. The spore print of tall Psathyrella is dark, purple-brown to blackish-brown. The partial veil is cottony white and evanescent. As we already established by the name, the stipe is long and brittle. It is also hollow inside, and in our case has white chevron patterns on the outside. According to mushrooms of the Redwood Coast, Psathyrella longipes is edible. However, many sources strongly advise against consuming these species due to difficulty in identification and high fragility of the mushroom, saying, quote, These mushrooms are nearly fleshless and fall apart easily, offering little substance. They lack flavor, texture, and nutritional interest. There are poisonous mushrooms that can be mistaken for Psathyrellas." End quote. Makes sense, but since I have a fabulous option of gathering information in 2 languages, I saw a video in Russian language where a lady was cooking 3 different species of Psathyrella in a soup while sharing her knowledge on their medicinal value, stating that they are antiseptic, diuretic, meaning they enhance urea transport in the body, increasing its removal from the blood. She stated that the mushrooms are used for treatment of gallstones and kidney stones. Also, pyelonephritis, which is a bacterial infection of the kidney or a more serious type of a UTI. Of course, I do not recommend eating the mushrooms simply because she does, but I do want to say that videos like that inspire me to not discount the fact that these mushrooms might be holding incredible value, which we simply don't yet understand.
Wow, look at these velvety guys. Oh my god. Oh my god, what a beautiful mushroom. Oh wow.
Red pinwheel or pleated Marasmius, scientific name Marasmius plicatulus. I don't know how to best describe the feeling I got when I first looked at this incredibly beautiful mushroom. It brought me right back to my childhood, when my grandparents dressed me up in gorgeous velvet dresses, shiny shoes, and did my hair all nice before a holiday concert. It's something like that, being very elegant and super proper and crispy clean, and having every last detail in place before stepping out in front of an audience. I love that feeling. Gradient color change on their wiry stipes, whitish sheen over the velvety caps, and rich, muted burgundy red colors elegantly complete one another. And a combination of broad, widely spaced, cream-colored partial and full gills, picking at us from under the cap, look like regal Elizabethan rough colors. Genus Marasmius was named by a Swedish mycologist Elias Magnus Fries, after a Greek word marasmos, which means drying out or withering. He did so based on the fruiting body's quality of marcescence, which means they could be revived after drying out, unlike most other mushrooms which are putrescent, meaning they rot and decompose. Mushrooms are no longer described or separated by the qualities of marcescence and putrescence, but I thought it would be nice to know the history of how this genus was first organized, and to note that it still stands in the face of DNA analysis.
I see someone. Let's go see who it is. Oh wow, there are a whole bunch of them here. Oh wow. Oh my goodness. A whole troop, and they're slimy. Look at that. Oh, this is some sort of like a rosy slime spike, but it's not rosy here. It's brown. Oh wow, how beautiful.
Pholiota velaglutinosa. This is the perfect case of you might think you know, but you have no idea. I was certain that this mushroom stands in close relationship with rosy slime spike, Gamphidius subrosius, because of its glutinous veil and physical appearance. I was surprised to find out that these species are from a different genus and a completely unrelated family. I am beginning to feel the difference between how people used to group mushrooms based on their physical appearance and shared qualities, and how scientists group mushrooms nowadays based on DNA analysis. It must be very surprising for the former to find out that the species they thought their whole life were related are not, and on the contrary, to see the most unlikely members of the fungal kingdom actually relate. If science didn't state otherwise, I would swear that Pholiota velaglutinosa and Gamphidius subrosius are related. And here I am, again, exploding from frustration that I have no one to ask about how First Nations grouped and distinguished local mushrooms, which I am certain they did successfully even without modern tools such as a microscope. In one of my favorite books, titled Tending the Wild, written by M. Cat Anderson, the author often describes mind-blowingly extensive knowledge of original nations about native species of plants and fungi. In one example, describing an account where a native woman corrected a traveling scientist who was looking for a specific oak species tree in the area where she lived, notifying him that the tree he was looking for did indeed grow there, and told him that in fact there were two distinct species of that tree growing side by side, the existence of which the scientist was not aware of, but to his surprise the information was confirmed. How could she know that if the trees looked identical? But back to our Pholiota velaglutinosa, a beautiful decomposer species that can be characterized by the glutinous coating blanketing their partial veils and caps, small fibrils on top of the cap's surface that appear to be floating in the glutinous slime, and dry stipes that are often enveloped in chevron-like scales and white fibrils. Pholiota is a genus of mushrooms in the family Strophareaceae. Currently, all mushrooms in Strophareaceae family are saprotrophs, which means they obtain nutrients by decomposing dead and decaying organic matter. Saprobes, which refers to saprophytic fungi, rot wood and can often be found growing in clusters on dead and decaying tree trunks. However, some species like Pholiota velaglutinosa are called terrestrial saprobes, meaning they decompose forest debris hidden under leaf litter. I found this troop on the ground under a bishop pine, which seems to be their favorite tree debris to munch on. Name Pholiota translates to scaly and refers to the general appearance of the cap's surface, while velaglutinosa comes from two words, word vela meaning veil and glutinosa meaning glutinous or slimy. And so there we have it, scaly with a slimy veil.
Guys, this is a Douglas fir. This is how they look here. Wow. Check out. It's so different. Look at the branching. Wow. It looks very different than Douglas firs in Mount Shasta. The way it grows. Like this. Huh. This is, I know it's hard to see for you, but I think it's a bay tree. California bay laurel, just because of the smell. It smells like bay leaves. It smells like that all around here. Is it bay or is it eucalyptus? No, it's bay. So it smells like camphor. I don't know if bay and camphor are related or are they the same thing or not, but it smells so pungent, these leaves. I can't wait to identify these trees here. Sulis Lakei. Or not. Oh no. This one has gills. Look at the cap. Cracked surface at the top. Let's look at the stipe. Wow. What a pretty mushroom. Let's take some pics. Let's do it.
Ignorance is a bliss, and I find myself in this blissful state filled with wonder every time I meet a new mushroom. It's like discovering a new creature, each one with its own character, appearance, and behavior that are unique just to them. This is probably how children feel when collecting Pokemons. I dig it. In this case, this trail is super abundant with new Pokemon. Meet Plums and Custard, Scientific name Tricholomopsis rutilans, a wood-decaying fungus known for its impressive ensemble of colors and textures. A plum-colored cap with custard yellow gills and a pale yellow flesh peeking from underneath the purple scales of the cap's cuticle. The stipe is also festive, dressed up in bright plum and yellow chevron-like scales that run all along the length of the stipe, stopping abruptly right before the white apex. Notice that the name Tricholomopsis sounds a lot like tricholoma, and literally translates to similar to tricholoma. But genus Tricholomopsis, which used to be a part of Tricholomataceae family, has been moved to Philotopsidaceae family, which contains 4 genera: Pholiotopsis, Pluricibella, Conoloma, and Tricholomopsis. Isn't it bizarre that Plums and Custard is probably more genetically related to Pluricibella porogens, the angel's wing mushroom, than, let's say, to a yellow knight, Tricholoma equestri? Basically back to the point that similarities in physical appearance are often a non-factor when it comes to modern taxonomic classification that is based on phylogenetic analysis. Time is breathing, expanding and contracting like a pupil of an eye. In the cycle of expansion of time, everything gets stretched out. Information pours out of us and is being perceived as separate from us, floating around in bits and pieces, filling up the space. We slowly rediscover each fragment and piece them back together. When time contracts, everything gets pulled back in. Everything that is outside will once again return to us and once again become internal knowledge. Original nations did not have microscopes and couldn't perform DNA analysis, but I have a feeling they didn't need to. They held internal knowledge, and through constant interaction with nature could directly communicate with fungi and plants. One day, we will become them. Some of us already on the way.
These guys, they're so beautiful together. The sulfur tuft and the Pholiotopsis malsii. Oh, and the false turkey tail right there. Wow. I don't want to step on any of them, but I want to take a closer look. Look how gorgeous.
This cluster of gorgeous mushrooms seem to be Hypholoma capnoides, commonly known as Conifer Tuft, an edible species that, unfortunately for us, has a poisonous lookalike relative, Hypholoma fasciculare, commonly known as sulfur tuft, that is more widespread and grows prolifically in the same habitats. From what I am learning so far, the best way to tell the difference between these two species is by the color of their gills and the taste and spit test. Hypholoma capnoides, the safe guys, have smoky gray gills and lack the bitter taste. Hypholoma fasciculare, the poisonous sulfur tuft, have greenish-colored gills and taste bitter. Also, Hypholoma capnoides grow only on conifers, while Hypholoma fasciculare grow on both conifers and hardwoods. The word Hypholoma means mushrooms with threads, and might either be referring to the very thin gray partial veil that leaves hanging threads on the margin of the cap, or to the thin thread-like rhizomorphs at the base of the stipe. The word capnoides means smoky. And while we're at it, word fasciculare means clustered or growing in bundles. Now, if you're like me, and the words that are similar sounding and describe similar things begin to short-circuit your brain, like for example Pholiota and Hypholoma, two genera that both describe wood-rotting fungi which grow in clusters on wood or decaying forest debris, then remember this: Pholiota species have shaggy or scaly caps, while Hypholoma species are typically smoother. Pholiota have dark brown to reddish-brown spore prints, while Hypholoma species produce dark purple-brown to purple-black spores.
And then look at these lichens. Look at the new mushrooms coming out right there. And then this beautiful Pholiotopsis, the young one, still very light. A little bit of white on the bottom right there. Guys, so it seems that it might not be cold enough here just yet for some edible mushrooms to come up, or maybe this is just the beginning of the season or something like that. So I am going to try to make it back to the car real quick and take a ride to Salt Point State Park, where we were last time, and hopefully it's not going to be dark yet and we're going to be able to gather some edible yummy mushrooms for dinner there. Let's go.